My son texted me, "Don't come to the family dinner. My wife doesn't want you there." I canceled all the payments. The next day he showed up at my doorstep. "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled." I had always believed that family was everything. For 67 years, I'd built my life around that principle. After my husband Robert passed away 5 years ago, my son Daniel became the center of my world. I'd helped him through college, supported him when he started his business, and when he married Jennifer 3 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms. Or so I thought I did. The Tuesday afternoon when everything changed started like any other. I was in my kitchen, preparing my famous apple pie for the upcoming family dinner, a tradition we'd maintained every month since Daniel was a child. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text message from Daniel. "Mom, don't come to dinner this Sunday. Jennifer doesn't want you there." I stared at the screen, reading the words again and again. My hands trembled. Don't come? Jennifer doesn't want me? No explanation, no phone call, just a cold, dismissive text. I sat down heavily in the kitchen chair, the mixing bowl forgotten on the counter. This wasn't the first troubling sign, I realized. Over the past 6 months, things had been changing. The weekly calls from Daniel had become sporadic. When we did talk, Jennifer was always in the background, and our conversations felt rushed, monitored. Family gatherings had become tense. Jennifer would make small comments about my house being too old-fashioned, or suggest that I was holding on to the past. But I'd dismissed these as daughter-in-law adjustment issues. Wasn't that normal? Then there were the financial requests. Daniel had asked me to help with their mortgage payment, twice. I'd sent the money without hesitation. They were struggling, he'd said. His business was going through a rough patch. What kind of mother would I be if I refused? Last month, he'd asked for help with Jennifer's car payment. I'd transferred $5,000 the same day. But now this? Excluded from my own family dinner? I called Daniel immediately. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. On the 3rd attempt, Jennifer answered. "Hello, Margaret." Her voice was cool, formal. "Jennifer, I just received a text from Daniel. There must be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," she interrupted. "We need family time. Just us. You understand." "Just us? I'm his mother. I am family." "We need to establish boundaries. Daniel agrees with me." The line went dead. I sat in my living room for hours that evening, watching the sunset through the window. Questions swirled in my mind. When had I become an outsider in my own son's life? What had I done to deserve this treatment? Was I truly the problem? Or was something else happening here? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying conversations, searching for clues I'd missed. I remembered Jennifer's comments about my spacious house and how wasteful it was for one person. I remembered Daniel asking about my retirement accounts, my investments, my will. At the time, I'd thought he was simply concerned about my future. But now? By Thursday, I'd made a decision. If my son and his wife wanted to exclude me, they could do so. But they would no longer do it while spending my money. I called my bank and canceled the automatic monthly transfer of $1,500 I'd been sending to help with their expenses. I canceled the credit card I'd given Daniel for emergencies. I stopped the payment for their country club membership that I'd been covering as a gift. Within 24 hours, my phone exploded with messages. First from Jennifer. "Margaret, there's been an error with our account." Then Daniel. "Mom, something's wrong with the payments?" Then, more urgently, "Mom, we need to talk. Call me immediately." I didn't call back. On Friday afternoon, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and felt my heart clench. Daniel stood on my porch, his face pale, his expression desperate. Behind him, Jennifer sat in their car, watching. Was this how it would end? My son, coming to my door only when the money stopped flowing? I took a deep breath and opened the door. "Mom," Daniel's voice cracked. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, his shirt wrinkled. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He entered, glancing nervously back at the car where Jennifer remained, her phone pressed to her ear. I led him to the living room, the same room where I'd rocked him to sleep as a baby, where we'd celebrated his graduation, where his father had taught him to play chess. "The payments stopped," he said without preamble, not even sitting down. "Yes," I replied calmly. "They did." "Why? Mom, we're counting on that money. The mortgage payment is due. Jennifer's car payment." "Daniel," I kept my voice steady. "Sit down. We need to talk." He sat on the edge of the sofa, hands clasped between his knees. I remained standing, looking at this man who was my son, but suddenly felt like a stranger. "You sent me a text telling me not to come to family dinner because Jennifer doesn't want me there," I said. "You didn't call. You didn't explain. You just excluded me." "Mom, Jennifer was upset. I'm not finished. Something hardened in my chest. "For 6 months, I've watched our relationship change. You've asked me for money repeatedly. I've given it without question. But now I'm asking myself, when was the last time you called just to see how I was doing? When was the last time you visited without needing something?" Daniel's face flushed. "That's not fair. We've been busy." "Busy excluding me from family dinners while cashing my checks?" The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I didn't soften them. He stood up. "If this is about the text, I'm sorry, okay? Jennifer was having a bad day. She didn't mean..." "Didn't mean what? To make me feel unwelcome in my own son's life?" I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder I'd been compiling since Thursday night. "Daniel, I did some calculations. In the past 18 months, I've given you $87,000. His eyes widened. I didn't realize it was that much. Mortgage help, car payments, country club membership, emergency funds, the down payment for Jennifer's jewelry business that never materialized, the vacation to Hawaii you said you needed for stress relief." I read from the list I'd made. $87,000, Daniel, and in return, I get a text message telling me I'm not wanted. "Mom, please. We need that money. The house payment." "You need to leave." He stared at me. "What?" "Go home, Daniel. Think about what you want from this relationship, because if all you want is my money, then we have nothing left to discuss." After he left, I sat in my husband's old chair and cried. Not gentle tears, but the wrenching sobs of a mother confronting an ugly truth. My son had been using me. Perhaps Jennifer was the driving force, but Daniel had allowed it. He'd chosen his wife's comfort over his mother's dignity. But I wasn't just a grieving mother. I was also Robert's widow, and Robert had taught me to be practical. That evening, I made a list. First, I needed documentation. I compiled every bank transfer, every canceled check, every payment I'd made on their behalf. The number was even worse than I'd initially calculated, closer to $94,000 when I included smaller expenses. Second, I needed to understand my legal position. Could I demand repayment? Probably not. Most of it had been given as gifts, but I needed to know my options. Third, I needed to protect myself. If Daniel and Jennifer had been manipulating me financially, what else might they do when the money stopped? I thought about my will, my power of attorney documents, my house title. Saturday morning, I called my attorney, Martin Breswick. We'd known each other for 20 years. Martin, I said when he answered, I need your help, and I need complete confidentiality. Margaret, what's wrong? I think my son has been financially exploiting me, and I need to make sure he can't do it anymore. We scheduled a meeting for Monday morning. I spent the weekend organizing documents, making notes, preparing for whatever came next. Daniel called 7 times. Jennifer called twice. I didn't answer. Each ignored call strengthened my resolve. Was I being too harsh? Was I destroying my relationship with my only child? Maybe. But I couldn't ignore what I'd discovered. I couldn't pretend that everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. Sunday evening, the night of the family dinner I'd been excluded from, I sat alone in my dining room. The apple pie I'd started making sat unfinished in the refrigerator. The table was empty. But I wasn't defeated. I was planning. Martin Breswick's office was on the 3rd floor of a downtown building, with windows overlooking the city park where I used to take Daniel to feed the ducks. The irony wasn't lost on me. Margaret, Martin greeted me, gesturing to a leather chair across from his desk. He was in his mid-50s, graying at the temples, with the sharp eyes of someone who'd seen every kind of family drama. Tell me everything. I laid out the documents I'd brought, bank statements, text messages, a timeline of events. Martin listened without interruption, occasionally making notes on his legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. This is more common than you'd think, he said. Adult children, especially those facing financial pressure, sometimes see elderly parents as a resource rather than a person. I'm 67, Martin. I'm not elderly. He smiled slightly. In legal terms, you're a senior citizen. That actually works in your favor. There are laws protecting seniors from financial exploitation, even by family members. What are my options? First, you've already done the right thing by cutting off the money. Second, we need to protect your assets. I recommend updating your will, your power of attorney, and setting up a trust that prevents anyone from accessing your funds without proper legal oversight. What about the money I've already given them? Legally, gifts are gifts. Unless you can prove coercion or fraud, which is difficult, you can't force repayment. But we can ensure it doesn't continue. We spent 2 hours reviewing and updating my legal documents. Martin drafted a new will, removing Daniel as executor and instead appointing Martin's firm. We created a revocable trust for my assets. We updated my power of attorney to require 2 independent witnesses for any major financial decisions. Margaret, Martin said as I was preparing to leave, I need to warn you. When Daniel and Jennifer realize you've taken these steps, they may escalate. People who've been cut off from money they considered theirs can become unpredictable. I can handle them. I'm sure you can. But please keep me informed. Document everything. If they threaten you, if they harass you, I need to know. That afternoon, I received an unexpected visitor. My neighbor, Patricia Chen, knocked on my door holding a casserole dish. Margaret, I hope you don't mind, she said. I saw Daniel here Friday. He looked upset. And you've seemed troubled. I wanted to check on you. Patricia and I had been neighbors for 12 years, but we'd never been particularly close. Friendly waves across the lawn, occasional chats about gardening. But something in her concern touched me. Come in, Patricia. And thank you. Over coffee and her excellent chicken casserole, I found myself telling her everything. She listened, nodding occasionally, her face sympathetic. My sister went through something similar, Patricia said. Her daughter was taking money for years, said it was for the grandchildren's education, for medical bills. Turns out she was spending it on cruises and designer clothes. What did your sister do? She hired a forensic accountant, found out exactly where the money had gone. It gave her leverage. A forensic accountant. I hadn't thought of that. Did it help? It gave her power. Knowledge is power, Margaret. The more you know about what they've done with your money, the better position you're in. That evening, I called Martin again. I want to hire a forensic accountant. Can you recommend someone? By Wednesday, I was sitting in another office, this time with Rebecca Torres, a forensic accountant who specialized in elder financial abuse cases. I gave her access to my banking records and Daniel's payment history. Give me a week, Rebecca said. I'll trace where your money went. Thursday afternoon brought the confrontation I'd been half expecting. Jennifer arrived at my door, alone this time. She was dressed impeccably, her blonde hair perfect, her smile practiced. Margaret, may I come in? I think we need to talk, woman to woman. Everything in me wanted to refuse, but I needed to hear what she'd say. I needed to understand her game. I opened the door. Jennifer settled on my sofa as if she owned it. I know Daniel has been upset, and I know you're angry about the dinner invitation. Disinvitation, I corrected. She waved a hand dismissively. I was having a difficult time. You understand? Marriage is stressful. Sometimes a wife needs her husband's full attention. By excluding his mother? I didn't mean for it to come across so harshly. Her voice was smooth, rehearsed. But Margaret, while I'm here, we should discuss something practical. Daniel and I have been talking about your future. This house is so large for one person. Have you considered downsizing, maybe moving into a retirement community? And there it was, the real reason for her visit. So, you can have my house? Her mask slipped for just a second, a flash of calculation in her eyes. Of course not. We're thinking of your well-being. And if you did sell, well, naturally, Daniel would inherit. We could help you find a nice apartment. I stood up. Jennifer, I think you should leave. Margaret, now. After she left, I sat down and wrote everything she'd said, word for word, while it was fresh. Martin had said to document everything. I was beginning to see just how deep this went. Rebecca Torres called me on Tuesday morning. Margaret, you need to come to my office. I found something you need to see. Her tone made my stomach clench. I drove downtown, my hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly. In Rebecca's office, she spread a series of documents across her desk. Your son and daughter-in-law have been more than just careless with your money, she began. They've been systematically exploiting you. She showed me the trail. The $1,500 I'd been sending monthly for mortgage help. Their mortgage payment was only $900. The car payment I'd covered? Jennifer's car was leased through Daniel's business and was already paid by the company. The jewelry business startup? No business had ever been registered. That $20,000 had gone toward a down payment on a vacation property in Arizona. They've taken you for nearly $94,000 in 18 months, Rebecca said. And based on these records, they've been planning to ask you to refinance your house to help them buy an investment property. I felt physically sick. How do you know that? I have sources. She pulled out another document. I also found something concerning. Jennifer has been researching memory care facilities. She's been building a case that you're becoming incompetent. What? I'm perfectly healthy. I know. But if they could establish incompetence, they could seek guardianship, control your assets. Margaret, they're not just taking your money. They're planning to take everything. I left Rebecca's office in a daze. This wasn't just greed. This was calculated, long-term exploitation. How had I not seen it? That evening, Daniel and Jennifer appeared at my door together. Daniel looked haggard, but Jennifer's face was hard, determined. We know you hired an accountant, Jennifer said, without preamble, pushing past me into my house. We know you've been investigating us. This is my house, I said coldly. You don't just walk in. We're family, Daniel said, but his voice lacked conviction. Are we? Because family doesn't lie. Family doesn't steal. Jennifer's eyes flashed. Steal? We never stole anything. You gave us that money freely. Based on lies. You told me you needed mortgage help when your mortgage was already covered. You said Jennifer's car needed payments when it was paid by Daniel's business. You took $20,000 for a jewelry business that never existed. You can't prove any of that, Jennifer said. But something flickered in her expression. Fear? Actually, I can. I have a forensic accountant's report documenting every lie, every manipulated request, every false emergency. Daniel's face went white. Mom, please, let's not make this ugly. It's already ugly, Daniel. You made it ugly when you chose to exploit your own mother. Jennifer stepped forward, her voice dropping to something dangerous. Margaret, if you pursue this, if you try to embarrass us publicly, you'll regret it. We have things we could say about you, about your mental state, about incidents that concerned us. Are you threatening me? I'm protecting my family, Jennifer hissed. Daniel is my husband, and if you try to destroy him, I will make sure everyone knows you're a bitter old woman who's losing her mind. Something cold settled in my chest. Get out of my house. Both of you. Now. Mom, Daniel started. Leave. They left, but Jennifer's parting glance was pure venom. Through the window, I watched them arguing in their car before driving away. I sat in the darkening living room, my body shaking. They'd threatened me. My own son had stood there while his wife threatened me. The hurt was almost overwhelming, but beneath it, something else was growing. Determination. I called Martin. They came to my house. They threatened me. Jennifer suggested she'd claim I'm mentally incompetent. Did you record it? No? From now on, Margaret, every interaction is recorded. I'm serious. And I think you need to step back for a few days. Let them wonder what you're planning. Don't answer calls. Don't engage. Take care of yourself. He was right. I spent the next 3 days at Patricia's insistence at her daughter's beach house, 2 hours away. I walked on the sand, read books, tried to quiet my racing mind. The distance helped. The fear faded, replaced by clarity. They'd shown their hand. Now it was time to show mine. But I would do it on my terms, when I was ready. When I returned home on Friday afternoon, I found an envelope taped to my front door. Inside was a handwritten letter from Daniel. His handwriting, not Jennifer's carefully crafted script. Dear Mom, I've had time to think. You're right. I've let you down. I've let Jennifer influence me too much, but I'm still your son. I'm still the boy you raised. Please, let's talk. Let's fix this. I miss Dad's chair, where we used to talk about everything. I miss you. Love, Daniel. My hands trembled holding the letter. This was my son, the child I'd nursed through fevers, celebrated with at graduations, held when his father died. The boy who'd once told me I was his hero. But I'd learned something in the past 2 weeks. Love could be weaponized. Family could be a tool for manipulation. I set the letter aside. Saturday morning brought another approach. A flower delivery. 24 roses with a card. To the best mother-in-law anyone could ask for. Let's start fresh. Jennifer, I gave the flowers to Patricia. Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. Daniel's number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mom. His voice was thick with emotion. Please, can we meet? Just you and me, no Jennifer. Coffee at Morrison's Cafe where we used to go? Morrison's Cafe. where I'd taken him every Saturday morning when he was in high school, where we'd talked about his dreams, his fears, his future. He was pulling every emotional string he could find. Why, Daniel? Because I love you. Because you're my mother. Because I've been an idiot and I want to make it right. How do you want to make it right? Silence. Then, I want us to be family again. I want. Mom, Jennifer and I are struggling. If you could just help us one more time. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. So that was it. The tears, the nostalgia, the emotional manipulation, all leading to another request for money. They thought I was weak. They thought guilt and love would override my common sense. Maybe the old me would have believed it. But the old me hadn't known what I knew now. Patricia knocked on my door that afternoon. Margaret, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I've told some of the neighbors what's happening. We want you to know you're not alone. That evening, Patricia's house filled with people I'd known for years but never really connected with. Tom and Sandra Liu from 3 houses down, the Johnsons, the elderly couple at the corner, Carol Wright, who ran the neighborhood book club, even young Marcus Webb, who was in law school. My grandmother went through something similar, Carol said. Her nephew convinced her to sign over her house. She almost lost everything before we intervened. It's elder financial abuse, Marcus added. It's more common than people think, and it's often family members who do it. The hardest part is accepting it, Tom said quietly. Accepting that someone you love has hurt you deliberately. Their stories, their support, it helped. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't being dramatic. What Daniel and Jennifer had done was real. It was wrong. And I had every right to protect myself. What's your next step? Sandra asked. I'm meeting with my attorney again Monday, I said. We're considering our options. Whatever you decide, Patricia said, we're here. You need a witness, someone to stay with you when they visit, a ride anywhere. You call us. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than fear and hurt. I felt supported. Monday morning, Martin's office had new information. Margaret, Daniel filed a petition with Adult Protective Services claiming concern about your welfare. He suggested you're showing signs of dementia and financial irresponsibility. My blood ran cold. What? It's a standard manipulation tactic. He's trying to create a paper trail that makes you look incompetent. Can he do that? He can file the petition, but APS will investigate and they'll find nothing wrong. In fact, this works in your favor. It shows the pattern of manipulation. It demonstrates his willingness to lie to authorities to gain control of your assets. What do? We cooperate with APS fully. We provide them with Rebecca's forensic accounting report. We show them who's really in control here. Martin smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. Margaret, your son just made a serious mistake. He gave us documentation of his intentions. The APS investigator arrived that Wednesday, a woman named Carol Simmons, professional and thorough. She interviewed me for 2 hours, tested my cognition, reviewed my financial management. Mrs. Marshall, she said at the end, I see no signs of impairment. Your finances are well organized. You're clearly capable of managing your affairs. And frankly, the pattern here suggests someone else is trying to gain control inappropriately. My son, I can't comment on ongoing investigations, but I can say that making false reports to APS is a serious matter. After she left, I felt something settle inside me. They'd tried threats. They'd tried manipulation. They'd tried legal tactics. Nothing worked because I wasn't what they tried to paint me as. I was clear-headed, prepared, and done being victimized. The doorbell rang Thursday evening while I was having dinner. Just a simple pasta dish, eating alone at the kitchen table that had once hosted family gatherings. Through the window, I saw both Daniel and Jennifer on my porch. Daniel held a bottle of wine, my favorite Chardonnay. Jennifer carried what looked like a homemade cake. I considered not answering, but Patricia's advice echoed in my mind. Document everything. Let them show who they really are. I turned on my phone's recording app before opening the door. "Mom," Daniel said, his smile tentative, hopeful. "We come in peace. We want to apologize properly. Can we come in?" Every instinct screamed no, but I needed to see what they'd try next. I stepped aside. They settled in my living room, Jennifer perching on the sofa, Daniel in the armchair that had been his father's favorite. The symbolism wasn't lost on any of us. "Margaret," Jennifer began, her voice warm, conciliatory, "I've been doing a lot of soul searching. I realize I came between you and Daniel, and that was wrong. Family should come first." "Should it?" I kept my voice neutral. "Of course." She leaned forward, earnest. "I grew up without a mother. Mine left when I was 8. Maybe that's why I didn't understand how important the mother-son bond is. But I see it now. And I'm sorry. It was a good performance. If I hadn't seen Rebecca's report, if I hadn't heard the threat in her voice 2 weeks ago, I might have believed her." Daniel jumped in. "Mom, we want to make things right. Really right. We thought maybe we could set up a regular dinner every Sunday like we used to. You could come to our house or we could come here, whatever you prefer." "And the money?" I asked bluntly. They exchanged a glance. Daniel cleared his throat. "We understand you were upset about the financial situation. We should have been more transparent about what we needed the money for." "Transparent?" "You lied about your mortgage. You lied about the car payment. You took $20,000 for a business that never existed." Jennifer's smile tightened. "Margaret, I think there's been some misunderstanding. We did start the jewelry business. It just didn't work out. These things happen." "No business was ever registered." I checked. The temperature in the room dropped. Jennifer's mask began to slip. "You checked?" Daniel's voice rose. "You've been investigating us?" "I hired a forensic accountant. I know exactly where my money went. The vacation property in Arizona, the luxury purchases, the country club expenses I was already covering." Jennifer stood up, her composure cracking. "You had no right to spy on us." "I had every right to know where my money was going." "Your money?" Jennifer's voice turned shrill. "You're sitting in this house, this huge, expensive house, alone, while your son struggles. You have retirement accounts, investments, assets. We're trying to build a life, to have children, to create a future. Is it so wrong that we expected help from family? Expected? You expected my money?" "You're going to die someday, Margaret," Jennifer said bluntly. "That money, this house, it's all going to Daniel eventually anyway. We were just asking for help now, when we actually need it." The cruelty of it took my breath away. She wasn't even pretending anymore. "Get out," I said quietly. "Mom," Daniel started. "You're being unreasonable," Jennifer cut in. "Do you know what people will think when they hear how you're treating your only son? How you're accusing us, cutting us off, making wild claims about exploitation?" "I have documentation. I have witnesses. I have a forensic accountant's report." "We have documentation too," Jennifer shot back. "We have records of your erratic behavior, your confusion. We have witnesses who'll testify that you've been having memory problems, that you've made irrational decisions." "You mean the false APS report Daniel filed?" Daniel's face went white. "How did you—" "I know everything. The report, the lies, your plans to claim I'm incompetent. I know about your research into memory care facilities, Jennifer. I know you were planning to petition for guardianship." "That's ridiculous," Jennifer said, but her voice wavered. Is it? Because I have copies of your internet search history. How to declare parent incompetent. Guardianship laws for elderly parents? Can guardian sell parents' house? I'd been bluffing, but Rebecca had warned me they'd likely research these things. Jennifer's expression confirmed it. You scheming! Jennifer started forward, but Daniel grabbed her arm. Jennifer, don't. She whirled on him. Don't. She's ruining everything. The house, the money, it should be ours. She's old. She's alone. She doesn't need all this. We do. And there it was. The truth, ugly and undeniable. Get out of my house, I said, my voice shaking not with fear but with rage. Both of you. Now. You'll regret this, Jennifer hissed. We'll make sure everyone knows what kind of mother you are. Bitter, paranoid, turning on your own son. I have this entire conversation recorded, I interrupted. Silence. Daniel's face crumbled. Mom, please. Leave. If you're not gone in 60 seconds, I'm calling the police. They left, Jennifer storming out first, Daniel hesitating at the door. Mom, 50 seconds. After they were gone, I locked the door with shaking hands. Then I sat on the floor of my hallway and let myself feel it all. The betrayal, the grief, the fear. Because despite my brave words, Jennifer's threats scared me. What if she did spread lies? What if people believed her? But underneath the fear, something else burned. She'd shown her true face. They both had. And I'd captured every word. I called Martin and sent him the recording. Get ready, I told him. This isn't over. No, he agreed. But Margaret, you're winning. That night, I didn't sleep well. But when morning came, I got up, made coffee, and reviewed my plan. They wanted a war? They'd get one. Martin scheduled what he called a family mediation for the following Tuesday. It's not legally binding, he explained, but it gets everyone in one room with witnesses. I've invited a mediator, and I've strongly suggested Daniel and Jennifer bring their own attorney. Why would they agree to come? Because I told them the alternative is that we file a civil suit for elder financial abuse and present the forensic accounting to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. The mediation took place in a conference room at Martin's firm. When I arrived with Patricia as my support person, Daniel and Jennifer were already there with an attorney, a sharp-looking woman named Vanessa Cord. Daniel looked exhausted, his suit rumpled. Jennifer sat rigidly, her jaw clenched. The mediator, Robert Fung, was a retired judge. He laid out the ground rules. Everyone speaks respectfully. All evidence is presented calmly. The goal is resolution. Martin presented first. He laid out Rebecca's forensic accounting report, page by page. Every lie, every manipulation, every false request. The vacation property purchased with my jewelry business money. The country club membership I was paying for while being told they couldn't afford basic expenses. The mortgage help that was double what they actually needed. $94,000 over 18 months, Martin concluded, obtained through systematic deception and manipulation. Daniel's attorney tried to interject. These were gifts freely given. Gifts obtained through fraud, Martin countered. But we're not here about the money. We're here about the pattern of abuse and the attempts at further exploitation. He played the recording from Thursday night. Jennifer's voice filled the room. You're going to die someday, Margaret. That money, this house, it's all going to Daniel eventually anyway. Daniel closed his eyes. His attorney's expression went carefully blank. Then Martin presented the APS petition Daniel had filed alongside the investigation report, clearing me completely. The searches for guardianship laws, the pattern of lies to third parties about my mental capacity. This wasn't about helping family, Martin said. This was about gaining control of Mrs. Marshall's assets through any means necessary, deception, manipulation, and when those failed, attempting to have her declared incompetent. Jennifer finally exploded. This is ridiculous. She's blowing everything out of proportion. So we asked for help. That's what families do. So we were planning for her future. That's responsible. She's twisting everything to make herself look like a victim when really she's just a selfish old woman who won't help her own son. Jennifer, her attorney warned, but Jennifer was beyond listening. We've been patient. We've been respectful. We've tried to help her understand that she's wasting her resources, that she's being impractical. That house is too big for one person. Her retirement accounts are just sitting there earning interest when we could be investing, building, creating something. Daniel is her only child. Everything she has should be going to support him, to support us, to support our future children. So you believe you're entitled to my assets while I'm still alive? I spoke for the first time, my voice calm, measured. You're not using them, Jennifer shot back. You're just existing. We have goals, dreams, plans. We could be building something important if you'd just stop being so stubborn and selfish. The mediator held up a hand. Mrs. Reynolds, I think— No! Jennifer was on her feet. I'm done pretending. Daniel, tell her. Tell her what we planned. Daniel looked stricken. Jennifer, don't. Why not? She already knows everything else. Yes, we were planning to petition for guardianship. Yes, we researched memory care facilities. Because someone needs to make responsible decisions, and she clearly can't. Hoarding all that money, cutting off her own son, making accusations, those aren't the actions of a rational person. Actually, the mediator said quietly, they're the actions of someone protecting themselves from exploitation. The room went silent. Jennifer seemed to realize what she'd said. Her face paled. She sat down slowly. Daniel spoke, his voice barely audible. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Jennifer said we just needed help getting started, that it was temporary, that you'd understand. Then it became more, and I couldn't stop it. You could have, I said. You chose not to. I chose Jennifer. I chose my wife. Isn't that what I was supposed to do? Not at the cost of your integrity, not by hurting your mother. Jennifer's attorney whispered urgently to her clients. Then she addressed the room. My clients would like to propose a settlement. They'll agree to cease all contact with Mrs. Marshall in exchange for no civil suit and no criminal complaints filed. No criminal complaints? Martin raised an eyebrow. Your clients committed fraud, filed false reports with APS, and attempted to manipulate an elderly woman out of her assets. The DA might be very interested. Wait, Daniel said suddenly. Criminal charges? Mom, you wouldn't— Why wouldn't I? I met his eyes. You lied. You stole. You tried to have me declared incompetent. Those are crimes, Daniel. I'm your son. And you treated me like an ATM machine, like an obstacle to your inheritance rather than a person. The truth hung in the air between us, painful and undeniable. Finally, Daniel slumped in his chair. What do you want, Mom? I looked at my son. This man I'd raised. This stranger who'd betrayed me. I want you to leave me alone. I want you to get help. Therapy. Marriage counseling. Financial counseling. I want you to become someone who doesn't exploit people he claims to love. And if we do that, then maybe someday we can talk, but not now, not like this. The mediation ended with a legal agreement. No contact for 1 year, no attempts to access my assets, no false reports or claims about my competency. In exchange, I wouldn't pursue criminal charges or a civil suit. As we left, Jennifer wouldn't look at me, but Daniel stopped at the door. I loved Dad, he said quietly. He would be ashamed of me. Yes, I agreed, he would. It was the truest thing either of us had said all day. The aftermath came quickly and without mercy. Within 2 weeks, word spread through Daniel's business community about the mediation. Not from me, I'd kept silent, but business associates talk, attorneys network, and the story of a son's attempted financial exploitation of his mother was too salacious to stay quiet. Daniel's business partner, Michael Hartman, called me. "Mrs. Marshall, I wanted you to know that I've dissolved my partnership with Daniel. I can't be associated with someone who... I can't have that kind of ethical liability." 3 of Daniel's major clients withdrew their contracts. The country club, the membership I'd been secretly funding, revoked their membership when the truth emerged about how they'd been paying for it. Apparently, Jennifer had been telling everyone they were successful enough to afford the luxury, and the revelation that Daniel's mother had been footing the bill destroyed their social standing. Jennifer's family, who I'd met only a few times at the wedding, reached out. Her brother Nathan called me. "Mrs. Marshall, we didn't know. Jennifer told us Daniel was successful, that they were doing well. We had no idea they were..." My parents are mortified. The most satisfying moment came 6 weeks after the mediation. Patricia showed me a "for sale" sign in front of Daniel and Jennifer's house, the house I'd helped them buy with a down payment gift of $30,000, the house with the mortgage I'd been helping with. "They're downsizing," Patricia said. "I heard they're moving to a rental apartment across town." The vacation property in Arizona, purchased with my money, was also listed for sale. Without my financial support and with Daniel's business collapsing, they couldn't maintain it. But the real victory came in a phone call from Martin 2 months after the mediation. "Margaret, I thought you should know. Jennifer filed for divorce." I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not vindication, just a hollow acknowledgement of reality. "How is Daniel?" "Devastated. She's claiming he misrepresented his financial situation during their marriage. She wants half of everything, including the proceeds from the house sale. There's barely any equity in that house. Most of it was my down payment." "Exactly, which she thinks she's entitled to half of. She also claims he promised her a lifestyle he couldn't deliver." The divorce proceedings were brutal. I heard about it through Patricia's neighbor, whose daughter worked at the courthouse. Jennifer demanded alimony, half of Daniel's failing business, and compensation for the emotional distress of discovering her husband's family was dysfunctional. Daniel, meanwhile, lost everything. His business closed completely within 4 months. The house sold at a loss, the market had dropped, and they were desperate. After the mortgage was paid and debts were settled, there was less than $15,000 left. Jennifer's attorney took half. I received a letter from Daniel 8 months after the mediation. It arrived on a Tuesday, handwritten on cheap notebook paper. "Dear Mom, I'm writing from a studio apartment in Riverside. I got a job as a sales associate at an electronics store. It's humbling. Minimum wage plus commission, but it's honest work. Jennifer left me. She said I was weak, that I let you manipulate me, that I should have fought harder for what was rightfully ours. I don't think she ever loved me. I think she loved what she thought I could give her. You were right about everything. I was weak. I let her convince me that asking for help was reasonable, that we deserved your support, that your reluctance was selfishness. I let her turn me into someone who could lie to his own mother, who could threaten her, who could try to have her declared incompetent. Dad would be ashamed. I'm ashamed. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve to write to you. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what I did. And I'm sorry. Your son, Daniel." I held the letter for a long time. Patricia found me sitting at my kitchen table, tears on my cheeks. "Are you okay?" she asked. "He lost everything," I said. "His business, his wife, his home, his reputation. He brought it on himself. I know, but he's still my son. What will you do?" I folded the letter carefully. "Nothing. Not yet. He needs to rebuild himself without my money, without my help. He needs to become someone who stands on his own. And if he does, then maybe someday we can talk, really talk, not as victim and exploiter." not as bank and beneficiary, as mother and son. But that day wasn't today. I had my own rebuilding to do. Martin had helped me restructure my estate completely. My assets were protected in an ironclad trust. I'd updated my will. Most of my estate would go to charities supporting elder abuse prevention, with a modest trust for Daniel that he couldn't access until he'd completed therapy and financial counseling. I'd won, completely, decisively, without compromise. But winning felt different than I'd expected. Not triumphant, just quiet and final and sad. 1 year after the mediation, my life had transformed in ways I hadn't anticipated. The house that Daniel and Jennifer had wanted me to sell remained mine, but it no longer felt like a monument to the past. Patricia had helped me redecorate Robert's study into an office, and I'd started volunteering with the Elder Justice Coalition, helping other seniors identify and protect themselves from financial exploitation. "You have a gift for this," Sarah Chen, the coalition's director, told me. "Victims trust you because you've been where they are." I'd helped 11 people in my first 6 months. Mrs. Anderson, whose grandson was forging checks. Mr. Rodriguez, whose daughter-in-law had convinced him to sign over his house. The Jackson family, navigating a complex situation with a caregiver who'd been systematically stealing. Each case reminded me that what happened with Daniel wasn't unique. It was disturbingly common. I also joined Patricia's book club, started taking watercolor classes at the community center, and reconnected with old friends from my teaching days. My calendar, once empty except for rejected family dinners, was now full of coffees, lunches, gallery visits, and meaningful work. "You seem younger," Patricia observed one afternoon as we painted side by side in class. "Happier." "I feel free," I admitted. I didn't realize how much energy I was spending trying to please Daniel and Jennifer, trying to be enough, trying to earn their respect. My finances, properly managed and protected, were thriving. Without the constant drain of Daniel's emergencies, I'd been able to invest wisely. Martin had introduced me to a financial advisor who specialized in senior wealth protection, and my portfolio was growing steadily. I took a trip to Scotland, something Robert and I had always planned but never done. I stood in the Highlands, feeling the wind on my face, and scattered some of his ashes in a place he'd always dreamed of seeing. It felt like closure and beginning at once. Meanwhile, reports filtered back about Daniel and Jennifer's situation, not because I sought them out, but because people inevitably shared news. Jennifer's divorce had finalized, but her post-marriage life was far from what she'd expected. She'd tried to restart her social media luxury lifestyle presence, but the truth about her exploitation of an elderly woman had spread. Sponsors dropped her. Her follower count plummeted. The last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental office, living in a shared apartment with 2 roommates. "Karma," Patricia said when she told me. But I just felt tired. Daniel's situation was more complex. He'd kept his job at the electronics store and had moved up to assistant manager. He'd started attending a support group for people recovering from financial addiction and manipulation, a concept I'd never heard of before, but apparently it existed. Nathan, Jennifer's brother, stayed in touch with me occasionally. "Daniel's trying," he reported. "He's in therapy. He's working on himself." Jennifer blames everyone but herself. One afternoon, I received an unexpected call. Michael Hartman, Daniel's former business partner. "Mrs. Marshall, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. Daniel came to see me last week. He asked if I had any work for him, anything, even entry level. He said he understood why I'd ended our partnership, but he wanted to prove he'd changed." "Did you give him work?" "I told him I needed time, but I thought you should know he's not making excuses. He's not blaming you. He's taking responsibility." I didn't know what to do with that information. My 78th birthday arrived, a milestone I'd been dreading, expecting to spend it alone. Instead, Patricia organized a surprise party with my book club, my painting class, and volunteers from the Elder Justice Coalition. 30 people crowded into my dining room laughing and sharing stories. "Make a wish," Patricia said as I stood before the cake. I looked around at these people I'd connected with after escaping an abusive situation, people who valued me for who I was rather than what I could provide. I thought about the work I was doing, the lives I was helping change, the freedom I'd fought for and won. What could I possibly wish for that I didn't already have? Later that evening, after everyone had gone, I found an envelope that had been slipped into my mailbox. Daniel's handwriting. Inside was a birthday card. Simple, not expensive. The message was brief. "Happy birthday, Mom. I'm proud of the work you're doing. I'm proud to be your son, even if I haven't earned the right to say that yet. I'm working on becoming someone you could be proud of too. Love, Daniel." No request for money, no manipulation, no excuses, just acknowledgement. I set the card on my mantle next to a photo of Robert and a picture from my Scotland trip. Maybe someday we'd talk. Maybe someday we'd find a way to be mother and son again, under different terms, with different boundaries. But today I had a full life, meaningful work, real friendships, and hard-won peace. Jennifer was struggling in a shared apartment, her dreams of luxury and status revealed as the hollow fantasies they'd always been. Daniel was working minimum wage and attending therapy, facing the consequences of choices he'd made. And I was free. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply living well while refusing to be victimized. I made myself a cup of tea and sat in Robert's chair, my chair now, and looked out at the garden I'd been redesigning. Tomorrow, I'd meet with 3 new clients at the Elder Justice Coalition. Next week, I'd start an advanced watercolor class. Next month, Patricia and I were planning a trip to New England to see the fall colors. My life, once held hostage by obligation and manipulation, was finally my own. And it was beautiful. So that's my story. My son tried to exploit me. His wife tried to steal from me. And they both learned that a 67-year-old woman could be stronger than they ever imagined. What would you have done in my position? Would you have forgiven sooner, fought harder? Let me know in the comments. I read everyone. If you've experienced something similar or know someone who has, you're not alone. Elder financial abuse is real, it's common, and it's devastating. But you can fight back. You can win. I share more stories about family betrayal, recovery, and justice on this channel. Subscribe so you don't miss them. Hit that notification bell. And remember, your dignity isn't negotiable. Your assets aren't someone else's inheritance while you're still alive. You have the right to protect yourself, even from family, especially from family. Thank you for listening to my story. Be safe out there and protect yourselves and the elderly people in your life. Until next time.